going to lower the flag, and he is outside, and so we're inside all formed, so we can watch him through the window. And so I think we are all set, and then we will continue with our program after Tim moves the flag at Mass. You can get up, stand up if you want, and see. That's the drawback. But, yeah, the flag, it's a big, tall flag. So we will continue, and Bob Dent is going to read prayer.
Almighty and everlasting God, who calls your people into faithful service, we give you thanks for men and women who have served and defended our country and the values of freedom, honor, and justice for which our nation stands. We call to mind the sacrifices they made and the hardships endured by their families and friends. But may their example inspire us never to take for granted the freedom and privileges they have secured for us. And merciful God, we remember especially today all those veterans who have shown the greatest love by laying down their lives for others in the line of duty, as well as for those veterans from Southport who died among us in this past year and whom we honor today also. Merciful God, you grieve amid the pain, fear, and suffering of your children. Look with compassion on all who endure the miseries of war, and bind up the wounds of all of our veterans who've been exposed to the horrors of combat or continue to battle with PTSD. Show us as individuals and as a nation how to comfort those who are hurting. And merciful God, may your healing presence surround and uphold our veterans and all the widows and widowers and children of veterans who have died. Comfort them with your peace day by day. Holy God, bless now in our day all the men and women of the Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and Coast Guard as they perform the duties of their calling. Give them not only a true love of country, but also a love for you and an understanding of your love for all people, so that relying upon your guidance, they may courageously defend our nation from every enemy, promote justice for those subjected to tyranny, and work for the unity among our own people. May they be a means of fostering mutual respect and understanding among all peoples of the world. And we ask your protective presence, O God, to surround all of our military personnel on active duty, on land, sea, or air. Guide them to do the right thing and keep them safe from harm. Knowing the devastation of war, we pray with the prophet Isaiah, gracious God, that someday swords will be turned into plowshares and that peace may reign in our broken, war-torn world. And may we all work to the peace, understanding, and compassion you call us to be about. And may liberty be protected, but the wrongful use of weapons be avoided, that towns like Lewiston will no longer have to grieve the innocent loss of lives. We pray all these things, God of peace and justice, in your great and magnificent name. Amen.
Amen. Barclay Shepherd is next. He's going to read In Flanders Fields.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm just going to say a word or two about the poem that I'm about to recite to you. It was written by a Canadian Army doctor. And any of you who enjoy using Google, I would suggest that you Google his name or In Flanders Field, because he had an amazing career. I won't go into the details. But he wrote this in honor of a very close friend of his by the name of Alexis Hammer, who died in action, killed in action in one of the battles of World War I. In Flanders fields, the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. While in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard among the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt sunset, sunrise glow, saw sunset set, loved and were loved, and here we lie in Flanders fields. Take up the quarrel with our foe. To you, with failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye bake faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. Thank you.
Very much. Jerry's going to lead us in some prayers from there or from here, wherever.
Song.
I mean, yes,
Song.
sorry. Song.
Please remain seated and join the singing God Bless America. And we won't be able to do it with Kit Sherrill this year. It's a big loss. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home. I'd like to call your attention to the grand old flag, stripped of cloth that millions of Americans have fought for and thousands have died for. It's a grand old flag. Please join me. You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace and wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true for the red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast or brag. Just old acquaintance speak, but God, keep your eye on the grand old flag. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. Next, Sigrid Croft is going to introduce our speaker, Michael William Henry.
Great. Our speaker's family began their connection to Southport and Booth Bay Harbor in the late 50s when his grandparents John and Janet Emery built a summer cottage at 11 Bayberry Lane. Their love and commitment to the area continued over decades and was carried on by his parents, John and Fran Emery, as well as other family members. His grandmother donated the funds to the YMCA in honor of her husband, and with those, the Emery family pool was built. His father, John, donated the land on which St. Andrew's Village is located, and Emery Lane is named for him. Stepsister Sue Emery Quimby started the Southport Regatta to support and raise funds for the local Booth Bay Harbor YMCA. It's our speaker's hope to carry on his family's charitable legacy and moved to the area to write his uncle and namesake's book, a story that has been his biggest passion, the legacy of the USS Indianapolis. He has been speaking around the country about this important chapter in American and military history as a part of a pledge to his uncle and namesake William Friend Emery, that he would do everything in his power to remember the 879 Indy final sailing crew who were lost at sea, as his uncle and his lost at sea shipmates paid the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms that we have today. Please welcome Michael William Emery.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I want to thank Sigrid Koff and the Southport Island Library Aides for inviting me to speak with you all today. Sigrid found me when I placed an ad in the Booth Bay Harbor, Wisconsin Register, seeking a long-term log cabin, cottage, or camp rental for me and my rescue cat named Miracle, to write the story of my uncle and namesake, who served aboard the USS Indianapolis C-835. I was honored and humbled and accepted Sigrid's invitation. I have many fond memories of visiting Southport Island with my family at a summer cottage at 11 Bayberry Lane. When my family would visit Southport, my dad always had one request for his first meal: Fern Tibbetts baked beans and hot dogs. I remember going mackerel fishing on the Fish Hawk with my father and grandfather. We also enjoyed taking family excursions aboard the Argo in good times. Elliot Winslow used to always blow his horn when the Argo would pass our family's seaside cottage to acknowledge my grandmother's local philanthropy. Grammy Emery would also reply back by blowing our long tin horn back to Mr. Winslow. I spent many hours at Grandma Stewart's workshop on Bayberry Lane. You can still see height measurements of me and my sister Trish. There's also a special gift we made at Camp Belknap in New Hampshire for Grandma Stewart, which is still hanging in her workshop today. My memories also include sliding down the iron slide to the New Wagon Inn and their saltwater pool, getting penny candy at Climo's, going to my grandmother's favorite Lawmere Inn for dinner, grabbing a hot dog at Brudd's Hot Dog Cart, having our favorite popovers at Rock Tide, and the old Southport Island Post Office just right around the corner. I wrote an email to Robert Mitchell last year about summer memories in Southport in the 1960s and 1970s, and his one-word email response was, "Wow." Thank you for joining me on my trip down memory lane. My full name is Michael William Emery. I live in Concord, Massachusetts. I'm a USS Indianapolis honorary survivor. I speak to schools, fraternal organizations, military bases, and local media, and share the USS Indianapolis story and personalize who my uncle and namesake was, with his photos, Super 8 videos, his last poignant letter to his grandparents, photos of the USS Indianapolis, and a handwritten letter from Captain McVeigh, as well as Bill Emery's Purple Heart, all of which I have brought today and can share with anyone after our ceremony. Our family USS Indianapolis story is an emotional one, so if you see me having a moment, please send your good thoughts my way. My father was born in 1924. My uncle namesake William Friend Emery was born in 1926. 9 years later, there was a surprise child, Stephen Gray Emery, who was born in 1935. In 1939, Stephen Gray Emery developed an earache and was diagnosed with spinal meningitis. Sadly, Stephen Gray Emery passed away. He was only 4 years old. My family decided to move from Madison, Wisconsin to New Canaan, Connecticut to start a new chapter in their lives. By the time William Friend Emery joined the war effort in May 1944 after graduating high school, my grandfather, Navy Lieutenant Commander John Colvin Emery, received a direct order from his superior, my grandmother, Janet Miller Emery. My grandmother was still grieving and processing the death of her youngest child. My grandmother told her husband, "Do not put my son in harm's way." My grandfather looked up and down the Navy's Fifth Fleet, trying to find that perfect ship that had the least likelihood of seeing any action. At that time, the war campaign in Europe was over, and the Pacific campaign was in the waning days and weeks. My grandfather found the perfect ship, 10 battle stars, FDR's ship estate, and Admiral Raymond Spruance's flagship. The ship was in dry dock at Mare Island in Vallejo, California, after getting hit by a kamikaze just prior to the Okinawa Gunto campaign. It was the USS Indianapolis CA-35. After Bill Emery completed his basic training and officer training, my grandfather pulled his Navy strings and got his prodigal son transferred from the East Coast to the West Coast. Bill Emery reported for duty aboard the Indy on May 8, 1945. Vallejo was only 30 minutes away from Mill Valley, where my grandparents were based during the war, which allowed Uncle Bill to come home on weekend liberties. I'd like to read you a portion of his last letter to his grandparents. Dear Graham and Pop, as you can see from the above address, I'm now on the Indianapolis, and she is a swell ship. She's now in for repairs, but I expect we'll be going out in a week or two. But we have a swell bunch of guys on board, and I'm looking forward to the voyage. I wonder if you could do me a big favor. Mother tells me that my strong box was sent to your place with the other stuff that was sent there as well. Well, I'm enclosing the key to the box, and if you will open it, you will find in there a little blue ring box with a ring in it. I bought the ring some time ago to give to my girl when I went away, and I want her to have it now. So if you will mail it to her, I would really appreciate it very much. Her address is Miss Ann Jackson, Canoe Hill Road, New Canaan, Connecticut. Then you can mail the key back here, and I'll get it sometime. Ann is expecting the ring, so you don't have to put a note in the letter. Thanks a million. Well, that's all for now. I'll try to write sooner, later. Love to all, Bill. In the back, you wrote a little cursive message. And he said, P.S. I almost forgot the main reason for this letter. And that was a thank you for the war bond for my birthday. It sure was swell of you, and will sure come in handy after the war. Thanks a lot, Bill. But fate and destiny had other plans for Bill Emery and his Indy crewmates. President Truman needed a fast ship to deliver components to the atomic bomb, nicknamed Little Boy. Heavy cruisers like the USS Indianapolis were known for their speed, were also very vulnerable to torpedoes. The Indy had air sonar, but not sea sonar. Captain Bay asked for a destroyer escort, but was denied. Captain Bay was also not told that the USS Underhill, a destroyer escort, had been torpedoed and sunk in the same petty shipping lane the Indy was soon to be traveling in. 3 weeks before VJ Day was declared on August 14, 1945, the USS Indianapolis CA-35 successfully delivered the components of the first atomic bomb to the island of Tinian. The Indy then proceeded to meet up with the USS Idaho in preparation for the invasion of the island of Japan, codenamed Operation Downfall. The Enola Gay dropped Little Boy in Hiroshima on August 6. 3 days later, the second atomic bomb, nicknamed Fat Man, was dropped on Nagasaki. The USS Indianapolis played a crucial and pivotal role in the ending of World War II. Sadly and tragically, at 12:14 a.m. on July 30, 1945, 2 weeks before peace was declared, the Indy was torpedoed and sunk in 12 minutes by the Japanese submarine I-58. Perhaps some of you may have first heard about the Indianapolis from the movie Jaws. Of Indy's 1,195 final sailing crew, only 316 survived 4.5 days in shark-infested waters in the Philippine Sea. It was the largest loss of life in naval wartime history from a combatant ship. My uncle and namesake, William Fred Emery, Seaman First Class, Quartermaster Striker, Navigation Division, was one of the 879 Indy crew who were killed in action and lost at sea. In a sad irony, my grandfather's brother on my mother's side of the family, Private Vincent F. Toomey, served with Company J in the 109th Infantry in World War I. Several weeks before armistice was declared, Uncle Vincent was killed in action in the Aragon Forest in France on October 3, 1918. If only World War I and World War II had ended weeks earlier, Uncle Vincent and Uncle Bill would have been able to come home to their family's loving embrace. Captain Bay was blamed for the sinking of the Indianapolis. He was court-martialed, but it was not his fault. For many years, he received letters from lost sea families at Christmas, during birthdays, and anniversaries, blaming him for the loss of their husband or son. Years later, in October 2000, the United States Congress passed a sense of Congress resolution that Captain Bay's record should reflect that he's exonerated for the loss of the USS Indianapolis. President Clinton signed the resolution. Sadly, Captain Bay did not live long enough to see his exoneration. On November 6, 1968, Captain Bay took his own life. No parent wants to lose one child, let alone two children. My grandmother relied on her religious faith to sustain her. My grandfather put all of his efforts in building our family air freight business. I think the one person who felt the loss of Uncle Bill the most was his best friend and older brother, my dad. For all of my life, I've asked my dad about his brother, who he named me after. I soon learned it was a door to our family's tragic past that should remain closed and never be opened. I felt so strongly to help my beloved father heal. In the Bible, in Galatians chapter 6, verse 2, it states, "Bear one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ." In the magical film Field of Dreams, the film my dad and me watched together, the voice in the cornfield said, "Ease his pain." That was my mantra and mission of my life, to help my dad deal with his pain, his grief, and his feelings of abandonment. My father's done so much for me in my life, and I want to do something for him as his loving son. I prayed to God to allow me to carry my dad's pain, grief, and abandonment. I thought my prayer went unanswered, but I was wrong. For many years, I tried to get my dad to attend a USS Indianapolis Survivors Reunion. I told Dad I wasn't going to go unless he joined me, but it was just too much for him emotionally. Finally, in 2005, I felt I needed to attend the 60th anniversary of Indy's sinking and reunion, which I did. I was so nervous attending the reunion all by myself. I saw the familiar faces of Indy survivors from documentaries and interviews I'd seen over the years, and I was totally tongue-tied. I gravitated towards a young woman with a camera, and we struck up a conversation. Her name is Sarah Vladeck, and she asked me if I was related to someone on Indy's final sailing crew. I said yes, and I introduced myself. Sarah asked if I'd be available to be interviewed for her USS Indianapolis The Legacy documentary. I didn't feel worthy because I lost a sea family and not a survivor's family. But Sarah told me that I had a story to tell, and boy did I. But it's a story my family never talked about or shared publicly before. I sat down the next day in the conference room at the Westin Hotel in Indianapolis and was interviewed in front of a group of strangers holding multiple cameras, and I began sharing William Friend Emery's story. Soon thereafter, I felt the tsunami of emotion stirring within me. What I should have done is ask to take a break and get a little liquid courage, if you all know what I mean. Instead, I kept on talking, and like a Mark Twain Mississippi Queen paddle boat, my emotions kept on getting stronger and stronger, slowly churning to the surface. And like a dam breaking, my emotions broke. I think I had a panic attack, emotional breakdown. I cried the deepest tears I have ever cried. Now as a man, when I cry, I don't want to be around anybody. I want to be alone and by myself. And here I was crying in front of a group of strangers, and I was getting filmed. Looking back, I questioned myself. Why was I crying for someone I'd never met? And then I remembered my prayer to God about easing my dad's pain. As an empathic young man, I carried all those tears, with each tear having names for people who loved and respected Bill Emery. His parents, his high school sweetheart and fiancée, his grandparents, classmates, teammates, teachers, parents, and of course, his older brother and best friend, my beloved father. I had to walk a very tight spiritual tightrope in trying to help my dad ease his pain. There have been so many synchronicities, serendipity, and kismet in my journey to help heal my dad's heart. I really feel that they were signs from Uncle Bill, that he was watching over me, trying to help heal his older brother and best friend. I used to share things about Bill Emery that only my dad knew about. That just overwhelmed and confused my dad. I remember living in Manitou Springs, Colorado, and my mom and dad were coming in for a visit. I put Uncle Bill's newspaper articles, Purple Heart, and Uncle Bill's letters on my kitchen table as an altar to honor my dad's younger brother and best friend. When my dad saw what I'd done, he got so angry at me. My dad did not want that door to our family's tragic past open. I knew one of the reasons why I was born was to help heal my dad, but I was so confused by my dad's anger. One thing I've learned in life is you cannot force anyone to heal. They have to do it in their own time and place. In the last 3 days of my dad's life, I prayed to God that my dad would give me a sign from heaven on whether I was able to help heal my dad in any way, or did I just fail miserably. My dad died on April 19th, 2007. April 19th is my birthday. Dad died at 1:15, which is the time I was born. Perhaps that was Dad's way to give me a sign. As much as I miss him terribly, I am comforted that he's with his beloved bride, my mother, Fran Emery, his brothers Bill and Stephen, his parents, his family, and friends. These magnificent Indy sailors of the greatest generation had a higher calling and destiny. They gave the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms we cherish today. As a Gold Star family, the Emery family knows the ultimate price of freedom. Freedom is not free. Our family heroes might be gone, but they will never be forgotten. To be remembered is to live forever. In closing, I wanted to share a family miracle that I just recently have been sharing publicly for the first time to give hope to fellow MIA families. When our family received the dreaded missing in action Western Union telegram, there was 57 days before we received a letter from James Forrestal, Secretary of the Navy, confirming Bill Emery was killed in action and lost at sea. During those 57 days, something quite unusual happened in my family. Llewellyn Miller, brother to Janet Miller Emery, mother to Bill Emery, my grandmother, wrote a letter to his sister. In the letter, Llewellyn shared a conversation he had with his daughter that night during a family dinner in their Madison, Wisconsin home. Llewellyn told his sister that they had not been talking about Billy to the children while he was missing in action, and were hoping and praying that Billy swam to a deserted island and the Indy was sunk. At dinner, Llewellyn's youngest daughter started talking about her Uncle Billy in the present tense. Llewellyn corrected his daughter that she must be referring to when her Uncle Billy visited their family farm the previous summer in Madison. Llewellyn's daughter said no. It was that day when she and her Uncle Bill had a very special visit. Llewellyn looked at his wife with big eyes and then asked his daughter, "What happened?" Llewellyn's youngest daughter talked about how Uncle Billy came to visit her that day. She then stopped talking and continued eating her dinner. Llewellyn then asked if Uncle Bill said goodbye. Llewellyn's daughter looked at her daddy, paused, and said no. Llewellyn asked if Uncle Billy said anything before he left, and she nodded her head yes. She then told everyone at the dining room table the last thing her Uncle Billy told her was, "I will see you later." Llewellyn concluded his letter to his sister by saying, if Billy does not survive, please know he is in a better place. To all the brave heroes who did not come home, we will see you later. God bless all our veterans from Maine and from around our country who served and fought and defended our nation. Please remember those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for the precious freedoms we cherish today. God bless all of you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you. Very inspiring. Now Jerry will read the veterans' names who have passed away this last year, since last November. From Southport, so.
May we be in the spirit of prayer as I read these names. People we've lost last year. Jacobs, Thomas D., United States Navy. Keller, Henry S., United States Army. Sherrill, Christopher, United States Navy. Smith, Phillips, United States Navy. Towson, Grace S., United States Navy. God rest their souls.
Taps will be played by Bob Dent, and there will be an echo effect played by Russ Hoffman this year, so you'll be extra special. Listen to taps and echo. So that sort of concludes this portion of our program. Please join us for fellowship and refreshments. Michael Henry will be around, available for questions. Jim Singer is going to have his slideshow set up here. And I think now, would you like to explain your banner program?
Sure. Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out again today. Thank you for your wonderful presentation. This is a really special time for me to get together with everybody. We moved here full-time in 2008. 2009 was my first time I came. Starting in 2010, we started a tradition, taking pictures of all the veterans that show up for the event. So when I do the slideshow, there's actually going to be two parts. The first will be the picture of the annual gathering of the veterans from 2010 up through last year. The second part will be the traditional slideshow that we put on all the time. Before that, I'd like to talk a little bit, though, about the banners. I hope that everybody has seen the banners that are all over the island. And special thanks to two people in this room for the success of the program so far. The first is Sarah Sherman McGrail, who's, with her resources, her enthusiasm, and her sales ability, is responsible for so many that we have up here in Southport. And the other one you have a big thank you for is Jerry. Because Jerry, the enthusiasm he has shown, the dedication he has, and the placement of all the 25 banners that we already have up in Southport, just magnificent. It sets a standard for the whole area. The banner program is for all 4 towns. It's sponsored by the American Legion. I've got a really great committee that's been working on it. You've probably seen it, I hope you've seen it in the paper. So far, we have 73 banners up. They'll be up for another 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to take them down for the winter. That way they'll last longer. So far, we have additional orders for 97 more banners. And our hope is to be able to honor every veteran in the Booth Bay region that has served in the armed forces. I've got some banner applications if anybody wants to get me. So, I didn't do my sales pitch, sorry. But anyway, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thanks again to every one of you for the service that you've given to the country. And I guess it's time for the slideshow and refreshments. So thank you very much.